Do you feel the vibration? This is what the 60s were all about. The 60s were about an energy. It was about a vibration. It was about a shift in consciousness. Think about what the 50s were. The 50s were what? Leave It to Beaver. They were with the Nelsons. They were with the perfect home with the father going out, the mother being with your 2.2 children. They were about all of that just static, just stationary. And then the 60s came along, and all of a sudden there was something upcoming in the spirit of humanity that said, it's time to expand, it's time to become more. We're tired of being bored. So what happened in the song is White Room, right? Where the shadows chase themselves. What are the shadows? Those are the illusions. Those are the thoughts that we have that are illusionary thoughts. We got into some discussion this morning, a couple of us, about politics. Let me just share about politics. It's an illusion. It doesn't matter. It's all BS. And let me tell you why it's BS. Because there's two ways to come into the world. There's the way where you use your mind, you think, and there's the way where you come in and you listen to your soul. When we use our minds, what happens? Our minds are thoughts that we keep thinking over and over again, right? And so we've built up neural pathways. The science is we have neural pathways that are connected in certain ways within our brain, and they have formed patterns within our brain, and we continually repeat those patterns over and over again. And so we have the patterns of a Republican. We have the patterns of a Democrat. We have the patterns of a libertarian. We have the patterns of a atheist. We have the patterns of a Jewish person. We have the patterns of an African American, an Italian. We have a pattern of a homosexual, a lesbian, a heterosexual. We've got all these patterns of thought, and we're locked into those patterns, and we do not realize that we have the right to break free, and we only break free when we listen to the soul. What is the soul? The soul is the white room. There's nothing in it but white. And so in that white room, we go back to the first song where John Lennon sang, imagine there's no war. Imagine there's no religion. Imagine there's no this, no that. No constraints that we've built into our minds, and those constraints we built into our minds have limited us. You see, the mind limits. The soul frees. So I was reading a magnificent short little book, probably 30 pages, by an author, probably around the early 1900s, Neville Goddard. Never heard of him until about 3 or 4 months ago, and all of a sudden, he was part of that group that came around at that time and wrote all of this magnificent stuff. And Neville Goddard, in this book, was talking about the art of creating. And we talk about creating here at Agape all the time. We talk about it from the standpoint that we get into an idea, and we have 5 steps that we teach in how to do prayer. It's not really 5 steps, but it guides you through the process. And the process is simply this. Recognize that God is all there is, okay? There's an infinite power and presence that radiates in and through and as all things, that is all things, that created all things, and out of it, it created itself, individualized as us. So we are, as the Christians would say, children of God. We are that which God is, created as individualization of itself, and we have been given free will. Do you hear that word? Free will to think any way we want. Understanding, and this is where we get lost, is we forget that our thinking is what creates our vibration, which creates our life. But we've gotten into the pattern where we've gotten so locked into these habitual thoughts that we keep recreating it over and over again and over and over again. So we have a baby. The baby comes in. The baby is pure soul. No thoughts in this baby. And the baby has freedom. From the time it is born, it has freedom to accept. But what happens to that baby? It is bombarded by the thoughts of the mom. It's bombarded by the thoughts of the dad. It's then bombarded by the thoughts of the family. It's bombarded by the thoughts of the preschool, the school, the religion, the churches, the politics, society. It's bombarded by what's on the internet now, what's on the television, what's on the radio if they listen to the radio. It's bombarded with everything around there. And what happens in that bombardment is we lose the idea. We lose the truth that we are free, that we have the ability to shift and shape and become more with a shift in the direction of thought. So this is the idea. So in this art of looking at what is prayer, prayer is about getting back to that state of oneness, right? That's what it is. It's recognition. God is all there is, and I am one with it. That's the unification phase, steps 1 and step 2. Here's what happens in classes. In classes, when we ask people to write their spiritual mind treatments or their prayers or affirmative prayer, less time is spent on steps 1 and step 2 than any of the other steps. Because why? Because the mind says, let's write down what we want. I want a body that's whole and perfect. It's going to be 180 pounds. It's going to be like an athlete. It's going to function like a 25-year-old. That's me in case you don't recognize that. Anyway, we spend more time talking about what we want. But you see, what we want and what we say are nothing until we recognize who we are. Did you hear that? So what Neville Goddard said, and he said this in a unique way, and it just, here I am. I've been a minister for going on 8 years. We've been at Agape almost 6 years now, and I've been praying since about 2002 in this new fashion. I thought I understood. I thought I could really explain it to the best, and now I'm saying, oops, I've even got a better way. And I really like this because Neville says that steps 1 and 2 are really get into the beingness. What does it mean, the beingness? It means to quiet the mind and get to a state where there is no form, where there is no face, where there is no words. There's just stillness. Get into the white room. See, in the white room, there's no contrast. There's just white. And so what is the color that you always hear about angels? White. No contrast. I'm not sure why white is the color for a bride. Can anyone tell me about that? That's a true statement, supposed to be a virgin. Does that even matter? What it means in a bride is that the bride is coming into this relationship open with everything to a new way of being, that she and her partner could be in this relationship without any restrictions. That's what comes to me. You see, relationships, we've been bound by this idea that we're restricted. The second we enter into a relationship, well, that means I'm restricted. I lose my freedom. I hear that all the time. I'm in a relationship. I don't feel good. I've lost my freedom. The only way we lose our freedom is when we give it up. When we buy into a model of being and we say, I surrender my freedom to that person. Let me tell you, the way to kill a relationship is to give up your freedom. Because if you give up your freedom and you're in that relationship, you will resent, you will regret, you will harass, you will torture, you will all yourself, and then that'll go out to the other person. Because the one thing we were given that was the number one gift when we came into this physical body was our freedom. Do you hear that? You are not here to make anyone else happy. Can I let you? I'm going to free you. I'm going to take away all of the burden that you've been given, that you are here to make someone else happy. Here's what you're here for. You are here to be joy. And when you are joy, your joy will radiate out from you, and you will attract joy from those who are willing to receive it. Those who are not willing to receive it won't even know you're here. Amen. Do you see, when you are vibrating in a state of joy, the person over here who's in a state of fear and anger, their vibration is so different, can't come together. Now, if you're in a relationship with a family member or something, a friend, and you're in a state of joy and they're in a state of despair, does that do any good for anyone when you lower your vibration from joy to despair? Absolutely not. So at Agape, you will never hear me say, I am sympathetic. I am never sympathetic toward anyone. I can empathize and understand where you are, but I am not going to come down and lower my vibration to be with you, because then I'm not doing anything to be an inspiration where you see, oh, there's light. I can rise to that light because it's possible. If it's possible for Lee, if it's possible for Steve, it's possible for anyone, because we're all God in expression. We all have that power within. Does that make sense? We all are on equal footing with that. Now, how we choose to use that power is what sets us apart, what makes us unique. So the idea, before we can become it, to really have the power, we have to be still. In the Bible, this is such a great quote, and it never came to me as I was thinking about this talk for today. It said, "Be still and know I am." Okay? Remember those words. Be still and know I am. They gave you the formula for prayer right there. Be still. See all of the illusion fall away. See all of the mind games fall away. See everything that's not true fall away. And just be in the formless, faceless quiet of absolute bliss. Once you're there, and know I am. Now we place the vibration, the feeling of what we desire to become or to be into our feeling nature. You see, if we desire to be, let's say it's abundance, we get into the stillness, we form that stillness, we become that stillness, we're quiet. And then we go into, what does it feel like if I had the type of life that was abundant based on what I view my abundance as? I embrace that feeling, I see it, I feel it, I sense it, I know it. It is then that that feeling becomes anchored, and that happens to rewire all of this up here. Does that make sense? So it's not a mental exercise. It's an exercise of literally becoming our truth and taking that white poster board, embedding in it the feeling, emotional idea of what we desire to express, to experience, and to be. That's the best I've got. I've never heard it any better. When I was sitting in back today, listening to all the discussion that I was a part of and all this chatter and stuff, I had to get away. I had to pull back, because I realized in that moment I was stuck in the mind. And we'll never cure anything in the mind. It's not because we elect an individual that the politics changes. The politics changes when we as individuals become and accept our own greater power and put that vibration into the universe, that we are the controllers of our destiny, that we determine the amount of freedom that we have, that we will only accept representation that will allow us to be the free, expressive people, and that freedom has to be something that we give to everyone. You see, we cannot put rules on anyone, because the second we put rules on anyone, we're going back to mind and we're coming out of the soul. Because remember, the soul's number one gift is it is free. Make sense? How many people would like to have their freedom taken away? No one raised their hand. How many people, and don't raise your hands here, have unconsciously given their freedom away? Just about everyone in this room has. There isn't a soul here that hasn't. Because we are easily conditioned. Our mind is that type of a trap that it is easily conditioned by what is around us. We're taught from day one to please our parents. My God, be a parent pleaser. We're taught that if we're in school and we're not pleasing the teachers, we're labeled as a bad student, a dunce. We're labeled as ADD, HDAD. All of those labels are put on children because they won't fit a model, a box that's put there. Then as adults, well, they immediately ask you at election time, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? No, I'm. When they ask you that question, go to the polls and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but go to the polls and vote. They say, well, what are you? Are you a Republican, Democrat? Just look at them and say, I'm a child of God. And say nothing else. Well, who are you going to vote for? Well, I'm going to vote for another child of God. Is it a Republican or Democrat? I don't know that God sees Republican or Democrat. Do you think God sees that? No, because there's no God out there seeing anything. Can we really get clear on that? God is an infinite energy that embraces everything, that cannot judge, because to judge means there must be something outside of God to judge against, and there's nothing to judge against. There is no Satan, there is no hell, there's no other being to counter God, so we've got to get over the myth that Did you hear about the Pope? He said there's truth in the Big Bang and evolution. Holy garbanzo beans. Think about what the Pope did. Now, I don't want to say traditional Christians because they're not traditional, because Catholics are the original Christians. Okay, let's see how this evolved. Let's go there. Catholics were the original founders of Christianity, okay? Catholicism was created in 325 AD by the Emperor Constantine, who wanted a religion for Rome. So he brought all of these factions of Christianity together, and they sat down in 325. They took all of these books, decided which ones were going to make up the New Testament. They combined it with the Jewish Old Testament. They built this book, and that became the synopsis from which Rome went forward. That is the original foundation and basis of Christianity. From Christianity, or Catholicism, then in the Middle Ages, they splintered away. They questioned. Martin Luther King questioned, and he said, no, that doesn't mean this and this. And then all of a sudden, the reason Protestants were founded was because they questioned the book being literal. Do you hear that? It wasn't literal, it was allegories, and that's what the Pope said. He says the way they founded, or the starting of the world with Adam and Eve, that's an allegory. It's not history, it's not fact. And so here's the thing. People will come to you and say, well, the Bible says this, the Bible says this. Yes, it does. And I've been told that many times, and I just look at them and I say, I understand. And I said, there's great wisdom in the Bible, but the Bible is not my source. What can you say then? Stops the argument right there. The Bible is not my source. What's your source? My source is this. God is infinite. Everything I believe comes from that one simple statement. God is infinite. If God is infinite, that means that God is the seen, the unseen, the known, the unknowable. God is all that ever was, ever will be. God is that which took itself in its allness and created from itself everything so that it could, as everything, experience itself. And it gave everything the freedom because there is a law governing this entire universe. It's called the law of cause and effect. And we in the human form get to use that law by the power of our mind and how we think and the mental atmosphere that we create that attracts unto us that which is our lives. And when we change that atmosphere, we start to see our lives change. There are many people I could bring up on the platform right now that have used this law and changed their lives as I've known them in Agape. Probably 3/4 of this community that I know have been in class and have changed. Everyone has that power. The key thing is, are you willing to accept that you are personally responsible? Are you willing to accept that there's work to be done? You see, most people buy into the idea, this church feels so good. I love coming here, the music. My God, the music's so great. The people are so nice. And a year from now, they go, my life hasn't changed. And I go, have you got a daily spiritual practice? Have you done the work? Have you gone back and realized your soul? Have you listened to your soul? Have you cleared your mind of all of the thoughts that don't serve? Gotten to the stillness? Felt what it's like to be formless, to be shapeless, to be faceless, to lose the boundary that we've created about who we are? And gotten into that state and then implanted an image of life for us. That is what we want. You do that, and your life will change instantly. Because you are using a power that knows no bounds, a power that is unstoppable. You see, I'm looking at you and I see the power. You are not this physical blob sitting on that chair, wearing the clothes that you're wearing. You are an energy. You are an energy that is a frequency that is vibrating, because that's what energy is. Everything is energy, okay? This is science. Everything is energy, and everything vibrates at a different frequency. And the frequency in which the energy vibrates determines the form it takes. It also determines what it attracts to it, because like frequency can only attract like. Different frequencies cannot attract to each other. Does that make sense? So and if we understand those basic laws, then we understand that we are 100% responsible for our lives. We can never be a victim again, because in order to have the experience we had to be of that vibration. If we want a different experience, we have to change that vibration. That vibration could be interpreted as your mental thought pattern. Keep in mind, I'm not trying to beat you up. Most of your thought patterns are unconscious. Can you hear that? All of our mental patterns are unconscious. We just have not been brought up to think consciously. And what we are about here at Agape, we are about universal truth and conscious living. That's it. People want to say, what do you study at Agape? Universal truth. What's universal truth? Universal truth is God is all there is. There's an infinite power and presence, and we are that, and we can use it by our thoughts. That's the truth. What do we do with it? We try to consciously live. Consciously live is remembering what? Universal truth, and living from universal truth, we are the creators. You all got very serious faces on. It's deeply disturbing to me. Because when we know that we have this power, that we are the individualization of God, we beam. We have grins out to here. If you could see April and back, April over there and back with the curly hair, the red top, she's got a grin from here to here. She is radiating love. Now look at the word love is now radiating elsewhere, because what? We describe love. That's what love is. Love, walk out today and smile all day long. People will think you're nuts, but they will change. And I'm going to give you a simple trick. Do you want to know how you can make someone in your life more powerful, more feel better about themselves? 2 things. Smile at them and say their name. Do you know that the number one thing to make someone feel good about themselves is when you say their name? People love to hear their name. When you come up to me, don't call me Reverend. Don't call me Pastor. Just call me Lee. I love hearing those 3 letters. Why? Because that acknowledges, when you say someone's name, you say, I acknowledge that you are unique, that you are special, that I know you, I honor you, I am willing to know your name, to remember your name, to say your name. You are special. When I started ministry, I was very bad at names. And I said, I got to change that thought process. And I did. So now if you come 3 or 4 times, I'll know your name, because it's important. Because if I don't know your name, how can I know your essence other than to feel it? But I want to reflect it back. Even if you've been married as long as I have, which is like a century. When I say Jean to Jean, she smiles. It's my little trick, don't tell her. You see, these are little things. Can you look in the mirror? Can you get a clear slate? And can you say, I love you, Lee, or your name in its place? Can you say your name with affection, with warmth, with love about who you are? That's self-love. People say that, but think about that. Be still and know I am. Well, be still, I am Lee. Be still, I am love. Be still, I am health. Be still, I am abundant. Be still, I am magnificent. Isn't that the simplest prayer you could say? And when you feel it, here's the key. I've told you to be still. I've told you to put this image and feeling into it. The key to it working is to feel it at the core of all that you are. That's why when you come to Agape, we have the energy and the music that we have, because we want you vibrating up here so that you can feel what the message is. You can feel the love in this room. You can feel that you are special. You can feel that there is hope. You can feel that there's possibility. You can feel. And when you can feel, you are alive. When you can feel, you are love. When you feel, it is good. It is so good. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.